Have you ever had an exchange with another adult that felt very childlike? Maybe in the way in which they showed up. Maybe they yelled at you or they started name calling you. Or what about this one? They actually just shut down and walked away from the conversation. A lot of people would say that that is emotional immaturity, but let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Yvette, and I'm a certified social and emotional intelligence coach. And on this channel, we talk all things emotional intelligence. And today, we are talking about how to become more emotionally mature. The first thing that I want to do is to talk about the fact that emotional maturity is not determined by age. I've met a lot of adults that have characteristics or traits that show up very childlike. I think is the most respectful way to say it, right? It feels very childlike, very familiar of someone that is of a younger age. However, emotional maturity is actually determined by how you show up during the times where you are the most frustrated, disappointed, if someone's corrected you, misunderstood you, rejected you. Those are the times where we all can test how emotionally mature we are, or maybe where there's some opportunities for growth. The question that you can ask yourself to determine your emotional maturity, or at least it's a starting place, is how do I show up when life does not go my way? And if you can be honest with yourself, that might be the first step on how to become more emotionally mature. First of all, I said this channel is all about emotional intelligence. And so obviously we believe that in order to become more emotionally mature, you would have to develop the skill of emotional intelligence. And there are several skills that's baked into being emotionally intelligent. But I always like to start with a definition. Emotional intelligence is one's ability to be aware of their own emotions and the emotions of others, and to use that information to manage themselves and their relationships. Simple, right? Except it's not. The thing is who taught us this, right? Who taught us how to be emotionally intelligent? What grade were we in? High school, middle school, when we were taught these things? I'll wait for it. There was no grade because it was never formally taught. Oftentimes we learn emotional intelligence by observation. We observe the trusted adults in our lives, and that teaches us how to respond when life doesn't go our way. But it's all good because it's a skill, which means that it can be developed. And that's what we're here to do, to develop skills. And so the first step, I would say, in developing your emotional maturity is to have a better understanding of yourself. And so that means that you would need to examine yourself. You might think, okay, well, I would have thought you would have said, like, I need to be more aware of myself. Well, actually, self-examination is going to help you to become more aware of yourself. I have a really detailed video where I go into the weeds about self-examination, and so check that out. But the first step in becoming emotionally mature or developing the skill further is to examine yourself. Examine oneself. Look in the mirror and have those hard conversations with yourself, right? Ask yourself that fundamental question: when life doesn't go my way, how do I show up? So this is the opportunity for you to look inward and see and acknowledge and forgive yourself for some of the things that you were never taught, right? Who teaches us how to apologize when we're wrong? Who teaches us how to not be defensive? Who teaches us how to manage all of these uncomfortable emotions inside of us? No one. And so with that being said, Self-examination allows you to ask yourself questions about how I show up. How do I show up when I receive feedback, when I feel rejected, when I'm disappointed, when I feel misunderstood? All of these things. And you think about the different settings of your life, your relationships, the workplace, your family, all of those places, and you try to look for themes within yourself. And so it really becomes you asking yourself some hard questions and being honest with yourself. And in examining yourself, what ends up happening is you become more aware of the things that are not working, that are not serving you, that are not helping you to get the results that you want in life. And the great thing is that you can also ask other people. And in fact, you should. So in this first step of examining yourself, you want to ask people that also experience you. And you can ask them with one question. Just offer this one question to them. That question is, how do you experience me? Or you can ask, how do I show up in the world? Either one of those will help for you to get some feedback, some data. And I like to say, when you have data, you can be dangerous. And so the first step in becoming more emotionally mature is to examine yourself. The next thing that we need to do, second step, is to choose what you want to develop. So we can't change everything at once, right? We want to identify one characteristic or behavior that we really want to hone in on, right? We want to take it to the next level. We want to tackle it. It could be defensiveness, emotional regulation, accountability, listening, communicating, setting boundaries, relationship repair, and those are just a few. It could be whatever you uncover in the first step of examining yourself. You now have an opportunity in the second step to really get clear on that one behavior or characteristic that you want to work on. You don't want to be working on 7 different things at a time, one thing at a time. And it's going to help you to really hone in on, where do I need to focus my growth? Where do I need to focus my attention? Where do I need to focus my intentionality? So that is the second step. Identify one thing you want to work on after you've done the work in step 1 of examining yourself. The third step and final step is to conduct what we like to call experiments. Really, the more common word would be practice, right? Practice working at this skill, finding solutions to whatever that characteristic is that you want to develop. However, we call them experiments on this channel because it takes a little bit of the pressure off. It allows you to know that this is a trial period, right? So when you're doing an experiment, you don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay, because what we want to do is just be intentional about practicing this new way of showing up in the world, this different way of showing up in the world. So for example, let's say that you decided to work on your defensiveness. Like maybe you kind of examined yourself, you recognize that you get really defensive when people try to give you feedback or tell you about their experience and engaging with you. In your next interaction, you're going to plan for a pause. What that could mean and look like is maybe you, I've talked about this in other videos, you might bring some tape or something, some visual cue to help you to remember to pause, to hold space, to be quiet, to not say anything. I've talked about Post-it notes, anything that just helps you to remember to pause. And then when the person tells you what they're thinking, their experience of you, you have an opportunity to now ask a question. So maybe that's your plan. You're going to pause, ask a question, and listen before explaining. So you go in with your plan and you do it as an experiment, okay? What about if you're working on taking accountability? So what you might plan for is to have, and I'm just giving you a practical examples, things we actually could do, but you'll have to figure out what works best for you. You might decide in taking accountability that, okay, these are the things I'm going to do when I take accountability in the future. I'm going to identify what part of the situation or the experience between me and the other person belongs to me. So I'm going to listen for that. Like, what role did I play? And then I'm going to own it. I'm going to own that. I'm going to say, hey, that's on me, or whatever language. You literally should write this out. And then I'm going to repair it. Repair might be an apology. You might be asking the other person, how can you right the wrong? But you could, again, write it on a Post-it note. You could put it in your phone. You could set an alarm to remind you of this because you know this conversation is coming. Lots of different ways to do it, but I wanted to give you some examples. The final one, another example. Okay, you're working on regulating your emotions. So you might say, okay, in the next situation where I feel like my emotions could potentially, I could be triggered, right? I'm going to name the feeling. I'm going to pause. I'm going to choose a different response. And maybe you have a couple of responses written on that Post-it note, or you might have some other visual cue near you, alarms going off on your phone. Please don't underestimate how these small actions can help you to change your behavior, okay? And so those are some examples of, you can find one characteristic and then come up with a plan. Kind of 3 things that you might do, and then you have it somewhere near you, a visual cue to help you to remember to do it. Remember, it's an experiment though, so if it doesn't work out, it's okay, because you're trying. You're just giving this a shot, and every time you do it, you'll get just a little bit better. So our process for becoming more emotionally mature is self-examination first, which then leads to self-awareness. After self-awareness, we get to choose a trait, a characteristic, a behavior. And then we're going to conduct an experiment. We'll reflect and then try again. And every single time you follow this process, you're developing the muscle of emotional intelligence and becoming every little step, every action that you take with intention to develop this skill of emotional intelligence, emotional maturity. You'll see small wins along the way. I guarantee it. On this channel, we like to offer a challenge. So in the next 3 days, I would love to offer you an opportunity to use the process that I just shared with you, the process of becoming more emotionally mature. Those 3 steps, we want to examine ourselves, right? Then we want to choose what we want to develop. So you're going to get really clear on one trait, one behavior, and then we want to conduct an experiment. That process will help you to become more emotionally mature. If you found this video to be valuable, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things. And remember, life does not have to happen to you. You can happen to life. Until next time, take care.